An excerpt from The Mark and the Market. Forward. For most people, the stock markets are places for exchanges and trades, a place where the economies of the world are dictated and dedicated financial agendas help companies grow and expand the resources of communities and nations. To tell the average person that the stock market is not real, or rather has a greater spiritual purpose in fostering particular aspects of spiritual oppression, isolation, and economic disparities, will be seen as ignorant, incorrect, and the result of paranoia or some other mental disturbance. In previous books of the Ancient of Days series, and in particular the music of the spheres, words, sounds, and phrases were analyzed as per their influence on the physical and psychological being of an individual or community. In this particular narrative, stock market language will be explored as to how this language is used in the spiritual oppression of individuals and communities, and more specifically how this language is related to biblical concepts of trade and the end of days. Moreover, the concept of end of days will be looked at in the light of modern society, whereas historically distinct periods that were relegated to distinct activities have slowly been eroded, creating an perpetually infinite time period of constant activity as opposed to days and nights where technologies were not dominantly used, as per banking and communication. With the recent growth in AI technology, the facilities to ensure that there are no down periods are finally created, and as such there is technologically no singular day but a great day, which correlates to scriptural notions of the great day. For most people involved in the stock exchange market, the words buy or hold are common phrases used to denote the fluctuations and movement of capital. These two words have other connotations to those within certain echelons or the inner circles, and are used as a method to communicate specific policies and practices directed towards victims of physical oppression, who are held as hostages or open-air prisoners. In the Book of Revelations, the woman on the beast is introduced as Mystery Babylon and is related to the trafficking of souls. From this biblical assertion, it must be considered that a market for this trafficking has been established. Christ declared that, "Who have eyes to see, let them see." This indicates that there are some aspects of society that will be seen by some individuals, while others may not be able to see these aspects. In the Book of Psalms, the phrase, "They mark my steps," is used to describe the workers of iniquity and their persecution of the righteous. In modern vernacular, a mark or the mark is a targeted person. Thus, as the scriptural concepts are explored in relation to modern social structures, a clearer understanding will be formed to explain how various economic systems are used to reinforce and capitalize off of oppression by specific actors. How buy and hold are used as instructions to those holding spiritual psychological hostages for extortion or trade. How buy is used to indicate both releasing or deleting a person being held. In previous books within the series, the phonetics of words were used to show the spirit of sound or the sound spirit. In the case of buy, phonetically there is buy as in to, buy as in purchase, buy as in what is said when one is leaving. The language of the stock market, for the most part, has remained the same for over 100 years. The only major change to the stock market is the technologies used to calculate and project earnings. To better explain the assertions of this book, a few concepts and logical assertions are explained and used. Philosophically, a look at the most logical conclusions is necessary. First, a black market trafficking in persons must have a method of advertisement, communication, and regulation that is widely distributed and available to those involved in the practice and with eyes trained to see. The most accessible and widely distributed information and data instrument is the stock markets of the world. Thus, logically, the stock markets of the world are the best choice to convey particular information or machinations of the black market industry involved in the trafficking of persons. The stock market historically is derived from the transatlantic slave trade, whereas those involved in the trade in enslaved African persons gathered on Wall Street to auction off the enslaved. The New York Stock Exchange, with head office on Wall Street, was established in the same location of the auction blocks that were used over 200 years ago to sell and purchase enslaved persons. What may be logically asserted is that, 1. The place that once openly sold persons as commodity and property. 2. Continued selling persons in a less obvious form. 3. Using a language that encodes criminal activity and hides crimes. 4. Allowing those whose families were previously involved in the slave trade and had lost their rights to openly trade with abolition and emancipation, to continue the practice in more modern and technologically advanced forms. Another feature of the stock markets are related to the words bull and bear. These indicate the forces operating on the stock markets. To be precise, these indicate the scriptural concepts associated with various periods of the stock markets. In the scriptures, the bulls of Bashan are described as the wicked, evil, or workers of iniquity. In the scriptures, the bear is discussed as follows. Can you bring out Mazaroth in its season? Or can you guide the great bear with its cubs? Job 38:32, and also, and the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. Isaiah 11:7. To be clear, the two animals that are used to describe modern stock market conditions are used in the scriptures as one, either riddles, parables, or codes detailing the nature of the universe and or reality. Of these two animals, the bears are two, associated with their cubs, offsprings, infants, or young within the scriptures. For most Christians and followers of Christ, the scriptures are always played out in society. Therefore, when the scriptures are describing the bear and its cubs, and the stock market has a condition associated with the bear, it may be asserted that, 1. The stock market is a mirror of, or mirroring for the scriptural concepts. 2. That the cubs or infants of the bear is fundamentally attached to the stock markets. And 3. That the bear condition of the stock market will necessarily also include the bear's cubs. The scriptures assert that, 1. The bear will be with its young, and 2. The bear and its young cannot be guided by the supplicant job, mortal flesh, or a single human. The bear and her cubs thus appear to be analogous with the enslaved mother and her children. To be precise, during the period of enslavement, the condition of the mother determined the condition of the child. Thus, any children born to an enslaved mother is by virtue of birth also under the condition of enslavement. Therefore, the modern use of this animal is to indicate, 1. A condition, and 2. To signify that the animal cannot be guided or led by a single person, because only the economy may determine the condition of the bear or lead the bear. That is, the hand of the market, or the stock market hand, determines who is free and who is enslaved. More precisely, only the stock market may determine the condition of the oppressed individual. The word condition has been used in both enslavement and the stock market consistently. The condition of the mother determines the condition of the child, and the condition of the stock market is either in bear or bull periods. When these market periods are considered, in conjunction with the speculative and predictive connotations of market fluctuations, and the scriptural association of Mazaroth, an astrological body, a peculiar picture is formed. This picture indicates, 1. Why some people become wealthy using predictively the stock market, and 2. How the stock market is associated with particular constellations that govern trading and or purchasing stocks. Thus, some people become wealthy by understanding the constellation alignments and their association with particular stocks, and constellation alignments, predicting or foreshadowing mergers or acquisitions. First and foremost, the ancient saying, "As above, so below," governs all modern and ancient societies. The as above is describing planetary alignments in the heavens, and the as below is describing earthly relationships or regions, including corporate and business relationships. For example, each company is associated with specific planets, stars, or constellations. A large company with many other smaller subsidiaries are constellations, that is, groups of stars, while a small company may be associated with a singular star, and an even smaller company with an asteroid, comet, or moon, etc. When a specific large company is acquired or merged with another company, that company is mirroring the alignments of a constellation with another constellation. To be even more precise, when a specific alignment is expected in the heavens, then companies on Earth begin to honor that alignment. That is, technologies are only traded to that specific company, allowing for their marketplace advancements to occur. For example, if Company X is associated with Planet X, and if Company Y is associated with Constellation Y, then when X planet comes into alignment with Y constellation, there is an earthly acquisition, merger or partnership between Company X and Company Y. Those very few people who are aware of this ancient riddle of governance, the dance of the spheres, hedge their monies on the expected earthly companies, becoming wealthy in the process. Some establish investment firms or organizations based on this wisdom. For centuries, this knowledge was passed down as specific dances that duplicated and mirrored the movement of heavenly bodies. For generally poor people, these dances were never learnt, and thus their psychosocial memory or limbic memory never practices the pattern or uses the pattern with investing their monies, thus they remain poor for the most part. For the wealthy, specific patterned dancing was an investment that all within the echelon was introduced into. Thus their limbic memory naturally invested in the patterns stored in their memory, thereby retaining and expanding their wealth. Within the dances, the various alignments were taught, and those with eyes to see understood that they were not simply to be entertained, but to record in memory patterns of astrological movements. The movement of the spheres or the dance of the spheres is detailing the alignments of astrological bodies. These alignments are duplicated on Earth as per companies, mergers, acquisitions, and partnerships. These alignments are also duplicated in marriages or the joining of specific families. To be clear, these astrological patterns of movement are easily noticed and tracked. This tracking has been taking place for as long as human society has existed. For many researchers, these alignments were and are seen at their surface level. The hidden orchestrations are rarely seen, understood, or implemented. The movement of the heavens and heavenly bodies is ultimately why stocks fluctuate and entire companies expand and contract. It is also why some companies never succeed. This brings the narrative back to the first point in subthesis. 1. The stock market is governed by scriptural, spiritual, and ancient principles. 2. The stock market utilizes the bear and the bull in a similar way to scriptures. And 3. The stock market is governed by an unseen hand. 4. This unseen hand is astrological or cosmological. 5. Those who are aware of this governance has been either sworn to secrecy or kept it to themselves as a form of economic expediency, non-oversaturation of markets, to prevent the devaluations of stocks. And 6. The singular commodity that allows the markets to function are based on blood rights, blood oaths, or blood sacrifices, thus joining the heavens and the earth. This joining of the heavens and the earth is 7, formed from the scriptural phrase, and the two shall become one flesh, representing a marriage. And 8, the one flesh created from the two, is an offspring. This 9, offspring's life, success, and longevity determines the life, successes, and longevity of the associated company. The 10, blood sacrifices, blood rights, and blood oaths that were used for centuries were that of the enslaved, both Africans and non-Africans. Thanks for listening. Select the next video for part 2. Comment and share.